1999 was an interesting time in comics. For better or for worse, the 90s age of comics was coming to an end. Marvel was still riding high on all things X-Men, but also willing to try anything, throwing everything to the wall to see what sticks. The MC2 universe was in full swing, publishing 3 titles a month. New series and miniseries were coming out regularly, and even Spider-Man had 2 new recent relaunches with Amazing Spider-Man and Peter Parker Spider-Man, both starting over at number 1. And of course the X-Men. Lots of X-Men. Meanwhile, over at DC, the time of electric blue costumes and imposters in mech suits had come to an end. While Marvel was trying new and exciting things, DC was getting back to basics, and that meant recognizable faces back on the Justice League. For years, ever since the Crisis on Infinite Earths, the JLA maintained a lineup of mostly second stringers. It was only 2 years before this that the Big Seven were back in the league together. And Image is still a major player on the scene, despite Jim Lee selling Wildstorm to DC just a few months earlier. But that's enough setup. Let's jump in and take a look back at this month in comics 25 years ago, January 1999. Folks, I'm Haussmann. How are you doing? It is January 1999. The Euro has just been introduced over in Europe, Bill Clinton is being impeached over in America, The Sopranos has just debuted on TV, and Michael Jordan has retired for the second time. Before the end of this month, the Denver Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl, while Fox is about to air a brand new series called Family Guy. But that's what's happening in the rest of the world. What's going on in comics? Quite a bit, actually. With over 6 million individual issues, the top 10 sellers made up about 15% of that. We're still talking about $2.25 million just in the top 10. For the top 100 comics sold in January 1999, DC had 42, Marvel had 36, 11 were from Image, 7 from Dark Horse, 3 from Chaos, and 1 from Awesome. And honestly, most of the DC titles in the top 100 were in the lower half, while most of Marvel's were in the top 50. That means that X-Men Unlimited issue number 22 at number 30 outsold Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, who were 38, 52, and 82 respectively. Of the 7 books that DC had in the top 40, 3 of them were Wildstorm books. One of them was a one-shot special kicking off Batman No Man's Land, and the other was a very hyped up new series for the Titans. Be sure to tune in next month to see how that one turns out. Now, if we're expanding that to the top 300, we're looking at 73 titles for DC, 41 for Marvel, 21 for Dark Horse, 20 for Image, and Archie shows up with 15 in the top 300. Several other publishers in there with less than 10 issues, so. While DC did make slightly more money than Marvel did, they had to put out 32 more books to do it. Marvel published a little over half of the books that DC did, but only made 0.72% less money. That was just in the sheer volume they were selling. Only 5 of their titles didn't land in the top 5, and 4 of them were X-Men and Spider-Man mangas. As far as any issues of note, there were a few number 1s, including Titans, Wildcats, and a little something called the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I didn't know about comic books.
Also, Inhumans number 5 came out this month. That's notable because it's the first appearance of Yelena Belova, the Black Widow, too. She's pretty big now, so that actually has gone up quite a bit in price. But now I'm sure you're asking, hey, what were the top 10 comics of that month? Well, number 10 is Gambit, issue number 2. Gambit is a great character, but honestly, can you think about Gambit being in the top 10 in this day and age? He's just got that X-Men stink all over him, and he's selling because X-Men and the 90s. Number 9 is JLA number 27. Having all the big guns together on the Justice League sure is paying off, as this is constantly DC's best-selling title. Number 8 is Fathom, issue number 5, and I mean, Michael Turner's art speaks for itself, like, look at it. Look at her. Number 7 is Wolverine, number 136. Again, it's Wolverine, you know, it's got that X-Men stink on it, and it's Wolverine in the 90s. Of course it's gonna sell. Number 6 is Avengers number 14. Avengers were recently relaunched from number 1, and it's been going very strong ever since, and that's a great cover. At spot number 5, we have Earth X, issue 0. This kicks off what they were trying to have be Marvel's Kingdom Come. Alex Ross did a lot of the covers, and he didn't do the interior art though. That was Jean-Paul Leon. It's a great story, and I'm sure I'm gonna talk about it a bit more, but this issue was just a 0 issue setting it up. It was just the Watcher bringing X-51, Aaron Stack the Machine Man, to the moon to replace him because some stuff is about to go down and needs watching. And then he basically proceeds to give him a whole history on Marvel's Earth. It's actually worth a read. Number 4, we have Spawn, issue number 82. I read it last night, and honestly, I couldn't even tell you what it's about. It may have even been the first issue of any Spawn I've ever read. So the art was fine. I remember there was less Spawn in it than I thought there would have been, but even in 1999, Spawn was a cultural icon. The movie and the HBO series aren't that far behind us at this point. People were just buying it because it was Spawn. It was Todd McFarlane. I don't even think he wrote that one. Yeah, I don't even know if he did the art either. But yeah, it's Spawn. Spawn was just selling, even though for my money it wasn't that good. I do need to go back and maybe reread all the early Spawn, see what it's all about. Number 3 through 1 I could talk about all together because they are all X-Men. They're all X-Men, every single one of them. It's X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and a one-shot called The Magneto War. I find it crazy that a one-shot is even hitting this high. It's in the top 5. This one-shot sold 107,000 copies. Like, that just to me is insane. Because honestly, you look, it's The Magneto War. Like, you guys watching this, you're comic fans. What's the Magneto War? What's the Magneto War? It was some acolytes and some other acolytes and the X-Men, and they were fighting, and Joseph died. Like, it was the Magneto War. I read it probably, but I don't remember it. I read it again, and I was like, okay, this is something. But it's X-Men. That's how high the X-Men was selling, because I'm talking to you right now, again, comics fans. What's Magneto War? You don't know. You don't remember. If you're saying you remember the Magneto War, you're probably maybe lying, or maybe you do remember it. But what's No Man's Land? What is Batman's No Man's Land? You know what it is. I honestly haven't read it. Been meaning to for years. But I know what it is. Batman No Man's Land was like the next big Batman event after Nightfall, right? It went over all the titles. There was like a huge earthquake or whatever that cut off part of Gotham, and it was shut down, and it was No Man's Land. It was a huge event. People talk about it afterwards, like, oh yeah, I remember her. We came through No Man's Land together. And that's in the comics, but outside of the comics, like, it's not the death of Superman, but it's No Man's Land. It's not the Magneto War. So the fact that the Magneto War is just a testament to what X-Men were doing in the 90s. Anyway, yeah, that's just, this is a type of video I've been wanting to do for a very long time. I'm glad I finally did it. A lot more research went into it than the execution in this short, quick video, but like, just, that's what happened. These were the comics 25 years ago. This is what you were reading if you were 25 years ago today, and I'm very excited because shortly after this, in just late 99, early 2000 is when I started getting into comics, so I'm going to have more personal stories as these grow. As we get into the comics, I can be like, oh, I read this one, I read that one, but otherwise, just anything notable that happened, I'm going to let you know. And also, we're coming into the movies, right? The X-Men movies about to come out, so every month, you know, I'm going to tell you what happened 25 years ago in comics with rambling like this at the end. Anyway, I've been Haussmann. If you could hit a like, hit subscribe, comment on any of these that you remember or what you would like me to talk about, anything specific when it comes up, give me a heads up. I would love to chat about it. The biggest compliment you could give to me is if you find somebody else that you think might be interested in watching this, just send it to them. The more views, the better it will be. But yeah, I've got other videos and you can watch them, but otherwise come back here next month for February 1999. That's a dumb way to sign off. So standing here with nothing. Either way, I'm going to leave you with some outtakes of me saying the Grey Cup instead of the Super Bowl. Before the end of this month, the Denver Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl? I almost said Grey Cup. Before the end of this month, the Denver Broncos are going to win this. I almost said Grey Cup again.